Hey everybody, this is Tony from Mammoth Underground Farm, and today, on this cold, rainy day, I decided I was going to whip out one of my land surveys of my property and start mapping out my vision for my homestead. Since I've been on my homestead for several months, I've had a good opportunity to see the land, to walk the land, to observe it, how rainfall, sunlight, soil quality in certain areas, wind, plant species, tree species, structures, fencing, etc., wild animal pressure. So I think now's a good time to, well, in my mind, I've always been planning out what I want to do, but I figured today I'd write everything down on paper. And I think it would be a great opportunity for anybody starting out with any type of landscaping or exterior home design, how that process, a good way to start that process. And I think for anybody, regardless of the size of your property, a land survey is a great tool to utilize, and I'll show you why. So your land survey has a lot of great information on here. Besides the actual dimensions, the length of your border on your property, besides that, it gives you a nice directional compass, so you know north, south, east, and west, the locations of things on your property. Besides that, it gives you structures on your property. So this is a good indicator. I know that after the firewood stack is my property line. It gives you an outline of your driveway. If you have septic well system, it tells you where the locations of that. It also gives you the locations of any type of drainage or streams that you have running through your property. It also gives you the location of any type of semi-permanent structures, like my wood sheds. It also gives you the location of, they even have this small planter box that was put in. So there's a lot of good information to kind of help you gauge where everything is going on your property and give you an overhead visual. So what I did from here is I laid out just some general information off the top of my head about what type of plant species, mushroom species, grass species, animal pressure that's occurring on my property now. And what I did is I kind of categorized certain areas of my property into sites. So what I did is in the upper northwest corner of my property, this actual woodshed was going to be the location of my chicken coop. But after thinking about it and after observing, I decided that I do in the future want to have hogs, that this would be better suited for hogs. I have a thick oak and beech and oak forest over here. So the oak trees will provide a good food source, acorns for the hogs. Also, this woodshed just needed too much work. There's too much work needed to do to it to get it working for chickens. And the woodshed is pretty big, so it's actually too much space for the amount of birds that I wanted. So I'm going to leave this as a future site for hogs, and hogs are great rototillers, so they'll come in here and they'll clean out this area. Another thing about this area, I don't know the quality of the soil. I expect it's got some decent organic matter because it's just been piling up with leaves and breaking down. It's been pretty much untouched for a very long time, but who knows. So the hogs will come through and rototill, kind of break that up. They'll manure the site, they'll increase fertility, they'll dig up some roots, they'll help clear out dead trees by rooting. They'll kind of keep the pressure down from the formation of new trees. They'll kind of open up this area for some more sunlight. And if I want to do any type of planting in the future, instead of using a machine, I got animals going through here and doing it for me and increasing the fertility. I also made some notes. I noticed that there was a patch of chicken in the woods mushrooms, so in the summer I'm going to take a look over in this area and hopefully get some good edibles this summer. So at the base of my property, my neighbor has no trees, so I get very good sunlight penetration since this is the south end of my property. I got good sunlight here, so a future site I'm going to plant some fruit and nut trees. Hopefully that'll be some good food source for the pigs and for me. In this area, maybe put a greenhouse out here. I don't know, but I get good sunlight, so I definitely want to do some type of planting out here. As I come up to the beginning of my driveway, this area gets great sun exposure. I have a 40-acre open field over here, so I get good sun penetration, great sunlight, so lots of wildflower species here, flower species. And I also want to put in some fruit trees, bushes, maybe blueberry, elderberry bushes, blackberry bushes definitely. And as I get further in, this is thick with forest material, so it'll get more shadier and shadier as I go in. So that's my plan for this area. I already planted a bunch of flower species in this area. The only thing is the soil quality is kind of iffy over here, so I'm hoping as I get small perennials and decent shrub trees, and I add organic matter, I'll build that up over time and just push closer to my property with the organic matter and planting. So my main focuses are in this area because I have some decent organic matter already here. So I actually started planting some blackberry and raspberry bushes in this area. I'm going to plant some perennials in this area too. And I'm going to just continue to add organic matter into this area. Over here by my back entrance is where I'm going to have my vegetable and herb gardens. A lot of my annuals are going to go into here with some perennials. And my plan is to just continue pushing this back. As I build up organic material, I'm going to continue to move my polyculture food forest system towards the southern boundary of my property. So as I move along, once again, I'm going to be putting in more fruit and nut trees, perennial systems on this outer line. Right now, as the rain comes through, I get good moisture hold. Not a lot of moisture buildup over here, but moisture tends to flow down through my property and through to the back here where there's a wetland area. So my goal is to put in a lot of deep-rooted fruit, nut tree species to hold the water in. I did get a new septic system, so I noticed where the old septic system was around here, it gets flooded very easily because they just kind of broke up the concrete, and I think it's legal for them to break it up and just leave it in the ground. So I probably have some voids of, and there's probably not a lot of root systems down in here because this whole area is just wide open. So this area is going to be good for pasture. So I planted a multi-species cover crop to kind of fill in this area. I don't want to put any fruit or nut or trees in here because I don't want long tap roots getting into my septic system. So I think cover crops will be perfect here. Pasture will be perfect here with perennial systems. They'll provide the root system, they'll hold the water intact, and they'll build organic matter. And as I go further on, this woodshed over here is actually my existing chicken coop. So they're going to have access as this pasture builds up for grazing. And I'm going to have an electric netting fencing that I will move on a semi-permanent basis. So their job really is to, I'm doing like a deep litter method, so I'm going to put lots of my wood chips in this area with their food scraps and sorts, and let them peck and scratch and manure into this and build compost very quickly. So this will be great because it'll allow me to dump all of my organic matter into my garden beds, which are right here. Currently, I have a landscaping company dumping wood chips in this area, but they can easily, my driveway is very long, I'm going to have them dump it over here by my bamboo forest. So easy access to the chicken run area, and that'll be my system of fertility. So back in the northeast corner of my property, it's very soggy. It's considered like a wetland area in here. But I noticed through digging up some invasive thorny vine species, rose viney species, that I have some very high quality organic matter. Every time I dug up a thorny vine species, I would have a good handful of earthworms. So this Japanese stiltweed has been doing a good job of cover cropping and building organic matter in this area. It is a little soggy, and I do have a break in my fence, my permanent fencing structure here, so I've noticed a lot of deer droppings. So the deer know that there's some good edibles in here. I also noticed a groundhog running through over here, so I'm going to get a lot of animal pressure in this area. I mean, animals are smart. They know where the best stuff grows, so they understand this is high organic matter area. So I got to have that in consideration when I start planting over here. So what I'm probably going to do is I'm probably going to plant stuff that they really, really like, and just, hey, that's food for them, so that they leave the rest of my area alone. And then also having the chickens in this area during the day will kind of keep some of those animals away. So I also plan to maybe build some pond systems in here, maybe when I get ducks in the future. And I also plan to build an organic swimming pool in this area. So it's an organic swimming pool is just a nature swimming pool. So it'll have a lot of species of plants that are good with like a natural creek or pond system. But it's also going to provide an area where I can swim in, which I think is pretty cool. So also, since the soil is very soggy in here, I think a great edible species maybe in here would be some type of like cranberries or something. So a lot to consider in all areas, but also in this area. So that's pretty much it. So like I said, if you plan on doing some landscaping, or where do I start with the design of my property, pull out your land survey, take a look at it, after being on your home site from a ground level. Now take an aerial view, and so to speak, and you can do some good land management from there. Hope this helps. This is Tony from Mammoth Underground Farm.